Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. Hey, one more guest for today before we wrap up the 2015 Prophet Conference. And our guest here, Tim Starr, said he wanted to end the day with a bang. And I'm really looking forward to what Tim has in mind. Tim, welcome to the program.
Me too. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me, honestly. You sent me that message a few weeks back, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in.
Count me in, baby.
What am I
Count me
going to
in.
do? I don't know. But
Tim is the author of there's another book, too, right?
another one is ready to go. I got to put the final
yet.
touches on. And then the third one that I'm really kind of more excited about and but it's more involved. It's going to take a little longer to come out.
Life, Love, and the Power of Perspective, available on Amazon?
Available on Amazon.
Or at timcstar.com, which is Tim's website, which you'll see that as we go through. Tim is I guess the best way to describe you is that you're sort of a coach, but not really a coach. You have a unique distinction in how you define yourself.
Yeah, well, one of the things I do is I call myself a mindset missionary.
I love that terminology
because hopefully we'll get to my story a little bit, but what I have come to, the realization, not so much the conclusion, but finally things have, the lights have started to go on in certain areas, and some stuff that from the things that I've studied and read and just picked up for really a long time. My mom was a seeker for answers, forever, and so I picked up a lot of that stuff from her and read a lot of things that she was into, and so she introduced me to like Wayne Dyer and some people along that line, and I forget where I was going, but I really did.
You really did.
There's a senior moment right out of the gate.
It's got to be the. It's got to be the root canal. That's what it is. I'm going to blame it on the root canal. How's that?
Oh, man.
Well, your background is that you came up through the ranks, the blue-collar ranks, grew up in the south side of Chicago, which is tough neighborhood.
Yeah, some of them are.
Some of them are.
Yeah. One of the things about that is kind of important, and maybe we'll talk about that, but Chicago is a very segregated city. And come to San Diego, and things are much more sort of blended in. LA is more segregated. San Diego is just sort of like a mishmash of everybody.
It's transit.
There are certain areas where it's a little more, and it tends to be more of the Asian population is over here, and there's you got a black population that's stronger over here, but in general, the city itself is just sort of all blended in. And we have Little Italy, but they have to put a sign up that tells you you're in Little Italy.
Otherwise, you wouldn't know.
But in other cities that are older cities, and I've never been to New York, but I have to believe it's the same way. You can drive down one street, and you go from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood, and you go from a Polish neighborhood to an Italian neighborhood to a Jewish neighborhood to a Puerto Rican, whatever, and just by the storefronts that you're in a different kind of, and you can get different kinds of food
from block
and
to
all
block.
That.
It's different. Yes.
Yeah, and what I've sort of picked up is that when you come out of something like that, where the cultures are very clearly defined, a lot of people who live in those cultures, they don't ever venture out. And so when you do sort of pull them out of there, they're really stuck into a box, into a paradigm that is really hard to change. And the south side of Chicago is, generally speaking, it's the blue-collar side of town, it's the working-class side of town, and it's a mindset that everybody shares, basically, that you're just working, and you're not really even looking for a way up and out and for better things. You got your nose to the grindstone, and that's what life is about, And they play hard too, but it's a lot of paycheck to paycheck living, and life is kind of a long struggle. And I got lucky that I sort of, dragged myself out of there sort of by chance. Really, I took a vacation and came out here to see an ex-roommate of mine, and it was late September, and it was kind of raining. And in conversation, he said, this is kind of what winter's like. And I said, I'll be right back. And 3 weeks later, I was living here, and that was, 1987.
It happens to a lot of us here in San Diego. You come for a visit. I did that in '96, and it was the same thing. I was like 2 years later, I was moving here, and that
come
was
from someplace that's cold, and you go, "Oh, I could live with this."
I was actually living in Chicago before coming here, so
there you go.
I understand your plight there.
Yeah, but it's that kind of that locked in mentality thing is what I was lucky enough, like I said, to have. My mother had me reading, and I've loved reading, even though you get older and you move away from doing it. But she had me reading all these different things. She was, all these different areas, and so I got exposed to a lot of different stuff, and that's helped me. And because what happened to me, just about 2 years ago now, I was almost 15 years on a job, and working at the New York Life Insurance Company general office here in San Diego. And I got a phone call one morning I was actually employed by another company. It was a contract position where every year it was renewed. And I'd been there just about 15 years. And I got a phone call from my rep who said, "They've taken everything off the table. Today is your last day. Go home." And I had been assured that, no, the contract's going to be re-signed. Yeah. And I was actually trying to get them to cut my salary by 25%. To maintain a level for things. We don't need that whole story. But I got the phone call, and I was unemployed. So 2 hours later, I was packed up and driving home to a wife who was already unemployed. And so the whole carpet pulled out from under you kind of thing happened. And I had no expectation that it was going to. And so it threw me for a loop a little bit. I got home and went, okay, now what? I don't know. But I hadn't had much of a real vacation in a long time. And so I decided that the first thing, I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm going to take some time off and just decompress and relax and go from there. And I managed, I went to work on the book. It had been started a couple of years prior to that. And I went back to chipping away at that and finally finished that. And, a year plus later, I'd burned through a lot of money and I had no income. I hadn't filed for unemployment. I was trying not to do that. I didn't really have a good plan. But in the process of this, I had expected that I would go through some sort of a time of depression over losing the job, in particular in that manner. And it just didn't happen. And so somewhere along the line, I started to go, all right, well, it didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? And the only, I say it as if there could be another choice, the reason it didn't happen was from the stuff that I had been reading and listening to, and of the training that I'd gotten one way or another over the course of 35, 40 years that was all about how you view things. That was the big takeaway was, and Wayne Dyer gave the strongest explanation that has stuck with me, and it's basically it's not the event that you experience that has an effect on you. It's how you process the information around that event. So you can have a car accident, or you get up in the morning and you put your feet down on the floor and your first step you kick the corner of the dresser. You can, it's going to hurt, but you have a choice right there to decide whether or not that's going to affect your emotional state in the moment or for the rest of the day. And if you decide to say, all right, well, that was no fun, but the rest of the day must be up from here.
That's it. Yeah.
You set the tone for your day, and life gives us nothing but opportunities like that all day, every day, and we just don't consciously pay attention to it.
So we have an audience here that came here to listen for advice for making 2015 a much better year than 2014. So based on your experience, your background, the things you've seen, the things you've been through, you lived through, what are some things that you could offer?
The first thing probably is that it's really important. We don't teach our kids critical thinking skills, and we don't teach our kids to question their own decisions or the information they get from other people. You're just supposed to respect authority and do what they tell you, and there's a way to question things without being arrogant or being a little snot-nosed kid. And you don't even necessarily have to verbalize it. But just because somebody's supposed to be an authority and they tell you, well, this is how it is, doesn't mean that they're right. And it doesn't mean that you have to accept at face value what they have to say. And I kind of, that's just natural for me. I don't just accept it because it works for you, great. Doesn't mean it's going to work for me.
Right.
It may, but until I actually experience it, until I test that, until I go through it, I just have a hard time. I have resistance to just buying into it wholeheartedly. So question things that people tell you as truths. That would be one. And learn. There's a trick to learning to consciously pay attention to what you're thinking. It's a difficult thing to do. We don't normally. We just bump around and something happens and we go, okay, we deal with it. And but if the way you respond to things doesn't really serve you, you need to learn how to respond to them differently. And the way that we respond to things is based on the programs that are running in our heads. And I'm going to disagree with Andy. We are computers. We don't have a choice about our response to something in the moment. We can respond to something and say, well, that didn't serve me. Look back on it 10 minutes later and say, oh, that didn't serve me to respond that way. I got to think differently about that situation.
Right.
But in that moment, there was nothing else you could have done. So, but that's what you have to do, is look at your response to things and start to question, all right, is that a good way for me to be tackling this issue? Maybe there's another way. And, with practice, the good thing is it's not hard. It's just, it takes practice. And you have to get into the practice, get into the habit of, you're sort of trying to be in two places at the same time. You're the conscious response to whatever it is here right now, and then over here looking at what you're saying and doing and where you're coming from.
Okay. So let's get into some examples that would be a little bit more specific. Like I did with Andy, I want to make sure that, people walk away from this and they go, hey, I've got something that I can actually use.
Okay.
So let's talk about somebody who's looking for Brighter Financial 2015. What advice could you offer them?
The Andy touched on it and Mitch touched on it. I wasn't able to watch everything that was going on today, but everything starts in your head. Everything comes out of the thoughts that you're thinking. So if your real desire is for more money, but if that's been your desire in 2014 and it really hasn't gotten you to where you want to be, then you've got to, I'll go back to what I just said, you've got to think about, you have to accept that the thought processes you've been applying to that goal haven't worked. You got to change something. So when you put an effort into doing something.
Change perspective?
Probably.
You're the perspective
Probably.
guy. I mean, that's the way I look at
it.
Yeah.
My thing is I'm aimed at helping people to feel more in control, to feel a little less overwhelmed in their lives, to feel happier. My opinion is that our ultimate goal as individuals and as a species on the planet is just for all of us to be able to walk around feeling happy. And it doesn't mean you just have a big goofy grin on your face all day, like, oh.
Why
right?
couldn't it mean
we're all gonna work. Well,
that
you
could
could.
be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But it means that when life takes a crap on you, and it's going to, that's a guarantee, that when it happens, it doesn't derail you completely. You just say, all right, now I've got something new I've got to deal with, right? I got a root canal that's coming on Monday. This happened overnight. So I woke up Saturday morning and I was like ready to scream. And all right, I could be like, oh, it's me. Oh, it's another $1,300 I got to spend or whatever it's going to be, but that won't help me. So the perspective that I've chosen to take is, all right, I'm going to do whatever has to be done to get rid of the pain, and if it means a root canal, then I'll do a root canal. If there's another method, then, maybe that's a better route to go. But it doesn't mean that, so financially, it's a step backwards. Yeah. Cause I wasn't planning for it, but it's not the end of the world. And it'll get paid for one way or another, and life moves on. The choice is wallow around in the negative part of it, or just say, all right, something to deal with, and let's go forward.
Yeah.
And it is that simple. You just make the choice how you want to deal with it.
So a lot of people are running into this. This has been a rough year for a lot of folks. 2014, 2013. 2013, I think, was worse than 2014 for a lot of folks. Life took a what did you say? Took a crap.
Took
on
a crap.
them?
Yeah. I'm being nice, being politically correct, I think, to a degree. So
how do they get out of it? How do they get through it? Change of perspective is great. We want.
The thing is, I don't have specifics. If you're not paying your bills, you got to look at why. If you're in a $400 a month studio apartment someplace and you can't make that rent, you need another job. You need a different job. You need something. But if that's not the issue, and it's not so much that you're not paying for things, you just want more money, because my perspective is that you want the money. Ultimately, you want more money to buy things, to go places or whatever, but it's to feel happy. The end goal of buying that new car is to feel happy. That's what you want out of it. It may or may not get you there, but that's why we do it.
Right.
So the thing is, where you start is and somebody else was talking about it, and maybe more than one, you start by looking at the things that you have now, find ways to appreciate the stuff that's in your life right now. It starts to change your mindset away from lack and I need more because if you're sort of in that kind of a desperation kind of mode, you're trying to fill a hole of some kind, and you probably don't really know what it is.
Right.
And if you can pull yourself back from that and start to take stock of the count your blessings, pay attention to stuff you do have that you can appreciate, you will settle down mentally. Your emotions will settle a little bit, and you can be more objective about decisions that you make and the actions that you take.
What would be really great right now is if you could offer a story of someone you've worked with or your own story, someone who's been through it, and just take us through, coming out of that kind of situation.
It would be great.
Yeah. Do you have a story? Do you have something to share?
Oh. Let's see. No.
Philosophy is great, but application is really what I'm looking for. I'm looking to say, okay, well, let's look at a very real example that we can relate to our audience and say, if you're in this kind of situation, like you said, 400 square foot apartment, you can't pay the bills, you don't know where to turn next. And by the way, I found that to be the hardest bill to pay was the lowest bill.
Yeah.
They become easier the bigger they get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I don't know why that
you're
is.
Expanding into the income you already have.
It just sort of,
if you're between a rock and a hard place, like I said, I don't have a concrete step to take exactly. But my experience has been that when I make a decision, like Andy was talking about raising your standards, when you really truly mean it and you make a decision, instantly doors start to open and opportunities start to show up. Right behind that come the challenges. The universe kind of goes, well, how serious is he? Let's see if he's going to carry through on this, right? So you get the challenges right behind it, but immediately things start to happen. You start to see opportunities, and I'm of the belief that they're around us all the time, anyway. But we're not trained to look for them. But once you start to look for them, they're there. And it's like, it's like buying a car.
So the person who's stuck in the 400 square foot apartment doesn't have enough money. Really what you're saying is they're not seeing the opportunity that already exists around them.
They need to say, all right, this is unacceptable. You got to have some emotion behind the decision and say, all right, and it's not your job to figure out how. And this is an Esther Hicks thing. It's your job is to figure out what you want. And in that instance, we're talking about, I want more. I want a better job. I want to be able to pay my bills without robbing Peter to pay Paul. I want to be able to just have enough money. Universe, make it happen. Right? You got a big part of our issues for virtually everybody is control. And if you've spent any time going through life, you know that you don't have a hell of a lot of control over how a lot of things happen. And opportunities come from weird places, and they don't always look like opportunities. But if you're looking for them, then you see them. And so if somebody in that position who's having trouble paying the bills, if they said, all right, I'm done with the struggle, this is ridiculous, I shouldn't have this trouble paying a $400 rent payment. All right, bring it. Something's going to happen. My last job, I was running out of money. I'm still working.
Tim, are we getting a story?
We're going to get a story.
Oh, I like it. Okay,
we're going to get a story. Let me talk long enough. I'll finally get there. But, there's a guy named Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He used to be a chiropractor, I believe. He's in either The Secret or in What the Bleep Do We Know? And I heard an interview of him, and he was talking about the way that things manifest comes out of a desire paired with strong emotion. And I had picked up a job, and I was there 1 week, and I come in the following Monday, and the guys that are there said, well, did you hear? No, did I hear what? Oh, they're closing the facility. Great. They're downsizing and shutting a couple of different facilities, and so a month later, I got essentially the same phone call, except I knew this one was coming. All right, today's the last day. You're done. So in between that job and the next, then, the money started going away. This time it was faster because I hadn't built it up like the previous 15 years, And I got to a point where I was starting to feel a little of the desperation, And I stood in my kitchen and I said, all right, universe, something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. 2 hours later, I got a phone call. Tim, there's a job opening over here. You want to play? And it doesn't. You don't go to work the next day because it's not. If you're going for a job with a company of any size, now there's background checks and drug testing and all that, and that stuff takes time. But I believe that it's because I finally sort of put my foot down, made that decision, linked it with some strong emotion. Something's got to happen. That's what made it happen. I got nothing else to point at because I hadn't done anything new.
We got a story out of you, though.
Got a
That's
story.
what we were looking for, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more, because you're bordering on law of attraction, and you've gotten away from, I know you were talking marketing not too long ago. You were in the marketing mindset, but now you're really coming into law of attraction, which is a term that a lot of people have not played with here today. I know we've touched on it. Andy touched on it.
Yeah.
Andy's touched on it a little bit, but here we go. Let's get into it.
Yeah, the law of attraction is, for some reason, people stay away from it sometimes because I think a lot of other people who, if you've heard about it and know anything at all about it, I think people tend to think they know everything about it. I think there's darn few of us who do know everything about it. But one of the interesting things, and since this is essentially about business, if you were to survey, say, 50 successful business people, well, give us a top 10 reading list. There's one book that's likely to be on probably 80% of those lists, and that's Think and Grow Rich. Right? And Think and Grow Rich is nothing but a manual for using the law of attraction. There is virtually zero business advice in that book. And yet it's on every business leader's list. And that's I find that ironic because you talk to those same people. Dan Kennedy was the big marketing guy who's a curmudgeon, and he's kind of grumpy and he's whatever, and he'll apparently he will downplay the whole idea of law of attraction and say that he doesn't believe in it, but he lives it every day. All you got to do is listen to him for 10 minutes.
Yeah, no question.
He lives it.
No question.
And he either just doesn't want to be associated with it,
No,
or
what he doesn't want to be associated with is the way it's being represented. It's being
Right.
misrepresented in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least the way people hear it.
Right.
I haven't heard anybody actually misrepresent it, but you can, two of us could sit and watch the same person talking about it
And hear two different
and hear
stories.
two different
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
No question.
So people, we hear what we want to hear sometimes. But so yeah, law of attraction is, if you study it at all, you will have to come to the conclusion that it's undeniable. It is basically, the idea is, in a nutshell, the idea is the thoughts and the emotions and things that you hold foremost in your mind are going to determine the types of thoughts and experiences and feelings that you're going to get going forward. The universe is going to bring these to you. And the idea is that you're putting out certain frequencies that match up with things, and the stuff shows up. I'm kind of coming around to an idea that the stuff is always around us, sort of on another dimension. And it's once we start to change our frequency, suddenly we see it. It's been there all the time, but we didn't see it. I don't want to get too woo-woo because I don't even go there, but
No, go ahead. Get woo-woo on
yeah.
us. It's okay. It's
It's not my thing.
We're going to end on a
but-
bang here.
Yeah. But, there is a big part of law of attraction is this idea about manifestation and saying, all right, I want this out of my life, and it's going to be created for you. And it doesn't happen out there somewhere. It happens from inside us. And we all have resistance. We don't have all the things that we want because we have all these different kinds of resistance to that stuff coming to us easily. We're trained that if you're going to make $1 million, you got to work hard. Doesn't work that way. The jobs that I've had where I made the most money, I did the least amount of work. It's just how it works out. And people who make lots of money, they work, but they do stuff it's inspired work. It's not grinding out stuff, because that doesn't keep you in the right mindset. It's all coming out of and what excites me is quantum physics is bringing the metaphysical and science together.
Right.
And that's cool when they finally come to where they both have to agree. You're saying the same things, but now here's the scientific evidence of it. That's going to be an interesting day. But
We're getting close to that.
Yeah.
We are really getting close to that now.
But we can do
Proving the law of attraction scientifically.
Yeah, we can do
That'll
tests.
be your next book.
I don't know about that. We can do things, and so I've got a prop here. We're going to come to this. Let's do a different one first.
Okay.
Our minds have an amazing power to change the reality, right? And it's easier to demonstrate. You can change things internally to yourself. You can change your physiology just by thinking about things or by doing something different. So I'm gonna do a demonstration, and I want all of this giant studio audience. You get to participate, and everybody out there in TV land. All right, bear with me.
It's TV land. Huh?
There was
They're
a
not
s-
going to hear you if you walk away from the microphone.
I
just
won't
so
walk
you know.
away from her.
Okay.
I'll speak up. There was a movie called The King and I, and it's been remade, but I haven't seen the remake. The original, for anybody who hasn't seen it, the basic idea is there's this English woman who goes as a tutor, I believe, to Siam. It used to be called Siam, now it's Thailand, if I'm not mistaken. And she goes to tutor the children of the king of Siam. And so this is the King and I. And this is a guy who Yul Brynner, he's got a giant ego, and he thinks he's running basically the world. And at some point, she teaches him about how, here's Siam, and here's the rest of the world, and it's a blow to his ego. But he has a physical stance, and I want everybody to do this. And the cameras may not catch my face, but it doesn't matter. Everybody needs to stand up. Yep, she's already there. Right? And I do this sometimes at home.
I can't see you now. Look.
Yeah, it's the part below that's important.
It's the part that below.
You're lucky I wore pants.
Yeah.
Because the sign on the door said no shirt, no shoes. But he stands like this, right, with attitude, and with his feet spread, shoulders back, and he just looks over his kingdom, walks like this, right? And if you pay attention, you do this. And you don't have to have an audience. You do this at home. And I do it with my dogs, and they look at me like, what are you doing? But you change the way that you feel. Especially the more you can play and get into this and just have some fun with it and stomp around the house. You're going to feel like I feel different now. Okay, you may sit. So you change.
Thank you to our studio audience for playing along here. You guys are great.
You physically change your body structure, your physiology, the physical nature of your body that's going on in the moment, and it's that easy. So the next step then is that's kind of it's almost an emotional change, right? But the next thing is a physical change. And that's where my prop came in. Now, Lisa, you weren't in the room when I had these guys just sort of examine this, but you'll have to play along. So I'm going to make a leap of faith here and assume that everybody in the audience has had experience with a lemon. Mm-hmm. And you've held a lemon in your hands and you've smelled it, you know what they smell like. So as long as you're not driving, I want everybody to get comfortable in your chair, relax, all right? This is not exactly a meditation, but close your eyes, take a deep breath. Now, what I want you to do is to visualize a countertop with a cutting board. On that cutting board is a big, ripe lemon. And there's a knife laying on the cutting board next to the lemon. And I want you to reach out and touch that lemon, pick it up, and just take a look at it. And notice the texture of it. It's not smooth. It's got the texture really of something like a football, kind of nubby and tacky a little bit. It's not slippery. And the shape of it is something like a football. It's not round. It's got the little buds on the ends. And feel the weight of it in your hand. It's actually kind of heavy for the size of it. And if you bring it up to your nose, you can smell that citrus smell coming off of the skin. So reach out and put it back down on the counter, on that cutting board, and pick up the knife with the other hand. And what I want you to do is imagine cutting that lemon in half and feel the resistance of the knife going in. And as you cut through it, you can see the juice coming out and leaking out of the lemon and down onto the cutting board. And as the other half falls away, you still have one half in your hand. Now pick that half of the lemon back up, hold that up to your nose and smell that. And it's got a different smell from just the exterior. Now, without thinking about it, bring it to your mouth, take a big bite. Now, you can open your eyes, and I want everybody to think about what's going on in your mouth right now. Right? If you've given yourself over to the exercise, you've got saliva going, right? Why? You didn't put anything physical into your mouth. Your mind doesn't know the difference. Your mind will tell your body to do physical things just because you gave it this picture. And so the point being, you can change your emotional state, you can change your physical state just by thinking about it. Why do we resist the idea that we can change anything outside of us by thinking about it? And what I see when people are resistant to the idea of the law of attraction is they think that, well, you can't just think something into existence. You've got to work for it. You got to do something. Action is in attraction. Well, yes and no. I think ultimately, if we were there, probably, yeah, we could actually just think it into existence. But for the rest of us, where we're at right now, something has to happen. Something has to be done. But what happens is that you get these opportunities start to come. And that's where it works. You get an opportunity to do something, to act, but in an inspired way, where you get up and you go to work, and yeah, it's hard, and you may be putting in a lot of effort, but you love it, and you don't think of it as work. And that's where we want to be. If we can get into that place in whatever the business is that we want to be in, now we're not only are we going to have success financially and status-wise and everything else, but we're just going to feel better about what we're doing. And ultimately, that's, if you keep working on it, ultimately that's going to be enough. It's really not about what we get at the end result. It's the whole smell the roses. It's the journey that really pays the dividends.
And it's funny because that's not what we're taught. We're taught quite the opposite. Yeah. Row upstream, work harder. Look for that promotion. Look for that next step.
We have. I think it's ironic. We have Westerners who we want to be happy and we want to know all about philosophy and things, and we go to the East, India in particular, and you go and they sit at the feet of these gurus who have nothing. But they're surrounded by people who want to know how to be happy. These guys just have big smiles on their faces. They have nothing. And they tell them, what do I do to be happy? Oh, stop worrying about having things. Oh, no, but I have things. I want things. How do I be, slap your, So it's, for those who get it, it's interesting. When they come back, then they have a whole different outlook on life.
It's a funny analogy when you bring it up that way. I'd never heard it quite put that way, but it is pretty funny. Yeah. So visualization, it seems like that's part of what you're talking about as well, or is that something a little bit different than what you're talking about?
Visualization, the good thing is there's no one way to accomplish this stuff. I have never been particularly good at visualization, and that's probably one of the reasons that I haven't sort of achieved or acquired some of the things I would like to, at least to this point. So, your mind works on pictures, doesn't work on words. We don't, the mind really doesn't know what the word, Corvette means. It's a picture of a Corvette that triggers.
It's triggered, right.
So, visualization is, I just can't speak to it in particular because I just don't have a lot of good experience with it, and that's my own fault. I've struggled with clarity, and every time clarity is huge.
Are we going to get another story?
No, not another story necessarily, but every time that I have gotten really truly clear,
we're going to end with a bang. We're going to end with a story. I want the story.
Oh. I got a story, but not about this.
We got a few minutes yet, so work on it.
No, my point is just that in my life, every time that I've gotten truly clear on something that I want, and it comes back to the universe, the door starting to open, it right away. I want to. I don't know. I'm ready. I want to buy this new car. Things happen that make it time. The old one dies, or you get a bonus check, or something happens that makes it the appropriate time, makes it convenient. But clarity is hugely important for whatever you want to do. If you have a general goal, you're going to get general results, and you'll take general actions because you don't really know where you're going. And in my time in the last couple of years here, getting clear on what I want to bring to people has been the biggest issue, because I didn't start out with, I've got this message I've got to get out there. I've kind of come around to.
We have someone who's an expert in that, by the way. Yeah.
I should talk to him.
I'm thinking her.
Yeah, her. I should talk to her.
She's right over there.
Hey. So but that's a big one. If you don't truly know what you want to do in any particular area, how are you going to?
So if we were to break this down then into steps, because that's sort of the easy way to train people, is like step one is decide on what you want, get clear, clarity, right? That's always step one.
Sure.
Right. Then what would step two be?
But that's hard.
Well,
getting
hard,
clarity is not necessarily easy.
You got to get there, and if you can't get there, get a coach, get someone to help you with it. Because, like you said, you need to ask the lady with the answers.
Well, there is something that I can contribute to that, because the light came on for me out of Think and Grow Rich. I'm part of a group that's going through chapter by chapter, kind of a mastermind, and we're going through that book chapter by chapter. And it was one of the things that really has been a problem for me forever. Is I don't really know what I want to do. I'm interested in all these different things, and I've got that shiny object syndrome, and and the shiny object comes by when you run into some kind of a hurdle, and you're like, oh, how do I do this? Oh, look, let's go do this, right? They're around all the time, but we're focused. We're making progress and we're focused, but you don't see them until you've kind of run up against a wall. But so getting clarity is key, but how if you don't know? And in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks a lot about developing this burning desire for what you want. Well, if you're not blessed, like Donald Trump knew when he was 5 years old he was going to be a real estate developer. I hate him for that. How do you know it? But if you don't know, then the answer is pick something. And just keep telling yourself that this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And you're going to get to a point where it either starts to work or you're going to get some clarity on something. And you don't just pick something that you hate, but pick something that kind of appeals to you and get focused on it and stay focused on it through effort. And that desire is going to begin to develop itself. And then when you get to a point where you'll know when it's time, if it ever becomes time, that you can switch to something else if you want to.
Well, don't feel bad. I have a professor, one of my college professors. We're still in touch via Facebook. He's in his mid-70s now. And he writes to me a few weeks ago. He says, I still haven't decided what I want to do when I grow up. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's but the good thing, if you can learn to be happy, you don't necessarily have to be driven and have that, because the ironic thing is, if you've ever had a situation, whether you're in school or at work, and there's a conflict between you and somebody else, and that things are coming to a head, and there's going to be some kind of a battle. You're going to have some kind of a confrontation. And you get prepared for it, and you've got your talking points, you've got your argument squared away, and you're going to shut this guy down, and it never happens. The problem disappears somehow. And you're just like, but I was ready. And it's almost disappointing that you don't have the battle. But so the same thing is going to apply if you're trying to make more money or if you get to the point where it doesn't matter if you make more money. We have a certain, I can't be satisfied just being satisfied. I've got to get there. That's our expectation, that's our training. But the reality is getting there is the point in between where you're learning things and you're appreciating the progress that you're having.
So we've got a few minutes left.
Okay.
We're at 4:44, my favorite number of the day. And so we've got a few minutes left. I just want to get your best advice. If you have someone in front of you who's saying, Tim, what can I do? I want to have better 2015. Give me one or two things that you can think of that would help them have a
more. He
really
wants
great.
more.
I want more because I just don't feel like I got the best you have to offer. You feel like you're holding back a little bit. Something just under here that you're not sharing.
It's like Oliver Twist. Please, sir, can I?
Look right at your audience and tell them.
What would I give you okay, this is part of what I talk to people about, and it's a topic that is kind of uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it has to be faced, and it's responsibility. We are all responsible for where we are, and it comes out of the programming that we have and the thoughts that we think, and the thoughts determine the actions that we take. And wherever we're at, good or bad, right or wrong, it's because of things that we have done. Even if somebody held a gun to your head to bring you in here and said, you're going to sit down and watch this, you still put yourself in a position to have that gun held to your head. So the problem, I think, there are words that I call baggage words that come with certain preconceived ideas. People think when you use a particular word that they know what you're saying. And my grandmother used to use the word terrific a lot. Well, terrific for most people means great, wonderful, right? She didn't use it that way. She used it as an adjective. It was there was this terrific explosion. There was this terrific commotion. It just means big, Well, responsibility is another one of these baggage words. And responsibility brings a couple of friends to the party that are blame and punishment, guilt, right? The good news is that when we're talking about self-development and enlightenment, if you want to use the word, progress, whatever you're responsible for, if it's negative, you're already paying for it. Right? Nobody's going to say, well, you can't stop now and become a better person and not pay for, not have the anxiety, and you're dealing with it now if you're here listening. So you got to let go of that, because responsibility just means that you're the one who put you in the position. You don't have to worry about being blamed for it or punished for it. So along with that, then if you're responsible for your past, guess what? You're also responsible for your future. And people don't like that either, because that means they gotta work, right? And if things aren't going the way they really would like them to be going to this point, they got to do something different. And we all resist change for different reasons, but if you want a different outcome, you've got to do something differently. You've got to think differently about things. You've got to act differently when you have experiences, and it's a huge, huge issue that people resist or don't put any thought into. And you can go, oh yeah, I get it, But if I see somebody doing that, they really aren't buying it. They're really not owning that it's their responsibility.
So there we are. That was the bang we're going to end on for today? Hey!
Maybe. I didn't get to tell a story. I mean, how much time do you have?
Still waiting for the story. Tim, thank you so much for being here. Right. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
You too.
I know we're going to do some great things in 2015 going forward. And thank all of you for watching. We had a fun day here. Lisa Rothstein's still here, and Andy Shepard's here, and Jeanette Joy Young is still here. Laura Rubenstein and Lisa Rothstein. I met them both the same night, and I had to remember those names. I actually literally had to go home and practice them so I wouldn't get them mixed up. You answered to both. Okay, well, that's easier for me. Mitch Axelrod was here as well, and of course the great Warren Whitlock joined us today, so that was a whole lot of fun. Hey, I would love your comments, your feedback on this program. If you stayed with us the whole day, or if you just caught a little bit of it, that's fine. just drop me a line, robert@ultimatewealth.com, or, you find me on Facebook or Twitter. I'm all over the place these days. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, all of my wonderful guests, my esteemed guests. You guys made this program so much fun to do. And have a happy new year, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in 2015. Thanks so much. Yay, we're done, guys. Great job. Yeah, we need to sing the songs now.
Oh, God. Oh, look at the time. I gotta go.